Well, good morning.
Hey, intro. Good morning, Nicole. Look at you. This is going to be a big podcast for you, I can tell already. She's coming out of her shell. 60.
You were pausing a little too long. I gotta get started.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is Sharon Crockett. Thanks for coming, Sharon. We've been friends a long time, and in real estate, you're in real estate mortgage, so I am excited to talk about your story and what's going on in real estate and how many solutions are really out there for people that maybe don't know that there are these solutions through creativity. My name's Russ McClellan. This aggressive girl to my right is Nicole Turner. So, this Small Towns Unscripted. So we always talk about why we do this. It's like 60 weeks in a row and counting. So there's two main reasons that we started it. And one was to help unite the community as far as a lot of new faces in the Valley and all of North Central Washington. Really, since COVID, we saw a major uptick in people now having primary residence. And so that can create challenges with basic Econ 101, supply and demand with respect to home prices and rent prices. But I've always, I've been bringing people to this town for 3.5 decades in real estate and grew up here before that. So I've seen the town change since I was a kid, right? And the vast majority of people are amazing people, and they bring amazing energy and resources. And sometimes that definition of a local gets kind of clouded. And my definition personally is that if you're a good person and you're contributing and you live here, you're a local. So my kids are 5th generation, so I think I qualify, but I think so does the person that bought here and moved here if they're a good person. So I think it's important that we unite a community, and hopefully by getting to know people instead of them, that will help. I feel that when you know more about someone, we all have a story. We've all been through great times and not so great times, and then there's that commonality that you can see. Oh, okay, well, I just thought this person was that. If you're a cop, that cop gave me a ticket, it's a jerk. Well, actually he's doing his job. He's actually a cool dude. He has a story and he has kids and so on and so forth. The other reason is that the authentic stories of people, I think, are important, and this technology now, podcasting, gives your family this authentic story that will live on forever, right? So your great-great-grandchildren, perhaps, that aren't born yet, can look back and go, I know I wish I had that of even my parents, right? Like, it just didn't exist. So hopefully the authentic stories of families can be cherished for a long time. So that's kind of why we started it. And it's been fun. We've been getting to know a lot about a lot of people. So I know you have a very interesting story and life story, and I've known you personally. We did a radio show together called, I think it was Home Sweet Home with Russ McClellan and Friends. You can find it on YouTube every Saturday morning for 5 years. And Michael Maher, your son.
Yes.
And we've worked in real estate together because you're one of the most creative and educated mortgage brokers I've ever met. So specifically want to get into that because, as you know, right now it's hard for a lot of what I call essential workers, but the people that don't make millions of dollars a year, right? So they still want a home. They still want to be able to live that American dream. And I've been watching people have to move for a long time. So to solve this problem that has really been created over a long period of time, and a lot of that is supply constraints because supply and demand dictates price every time. And when you live in a beautiful place, whether I think you grew up in eventually Whitefish. Is that true?
No, actually, we have a rental property but
same town.
Yeah, all over I grew up. So
and let's get into that. But it's it's an expensive town. So if we can help people realize that there's so many ways that many mortgage brokers don't even mention, definitely many bankers don't mention, that can get the goal accomplished, but you sometimes have to change the angle, right? And change the complexity within these deals. And to have somebody like yourself, I think this could be very good information for people. So
absolutely.
But let's start with your family. Like, I always kind of am curious about this country. It's pretty young in general. So
250 years this year.
Yeah, right.
I'm
so
excited.
Where did your great-grandparents or grandparents come from to get here?
Oh,
do you know?
yeah. Yes, I do. My dad's side is from England, and my mom's side is France and Poland. So my grandparents came to Jersey and Rhode Island, and then they had my mom and dad, and then they moved out to San Diego military, and so then my mom and dad eventually met in San Diego, and then so started their chapter of, they got married pretty quick. My dad went to Vietnam for a year, got back, got pregnant with me right away, after Vietnam for a year. And then that was in Germany. So I lived in Germany and in Europe for about 3 years.
So you're born in Germany?
Yep.
Wow.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch, that's about it. I don't speak German, but I do have a German birth certificate, and I had dual citizenship until I turned 18, and then I had to choose. And so by staying in the United States, that was my choice to, keep that and let the German citizenship go. And then we moved to Nebraska. My sister was born, so I just have one sibling, younger sister. She's 2.5 years younger. And then we lived all over the country, just moved. My dad was in the military for a while and then got out and went to work for the Defense Department as a special agent, investigating like white collar crime, things like defrauding the government for government contracts and stuff like that. So he'd come home with stories of putting wires on people, but he couldn't tell us what it was for. And
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, and then we ended up back in Washington because my dad was stationed in Fort Lewis at one point and always wanted to come back here. And he wanted the dream of a log home with horses. And so they moved from Cleveland, Ohio to Granite Falls, actually.
Wow.
Which was like a major culture shock because I was in a big 4A school and went to tiny little Granite Falls, and it was like, what have they done? But it worked out. It gave us good, built character, as my dad would say. We chopped wood and had the home fires burning and took care of the horses, and pretty much was a straight A student. I was a firstborn, so I was very high performing. My dad had high expectations. I was his little army, daughter.
Yeah.
He probably wanted to have the army son, but anyway, he was a great dad, still is a great dad. He lives here in Wenatchee, and
Was he kind of that drill sergeant mindset growing up?
We butted heads. I was a very compliant child until I turned 16.
Oh, and then you're like,
then I was like, I don't really like this little drill sergeant mentality, so we had some words a few times, and I ended up moving out at 18 to go find my way. And but you know what, he was an amazing dad. I mean, he raised us with hard work, high expectations, life's not fair, those kinds of things that he said, and it instilled a very good, strong work ethic for my sister and I. So while we resented it when we were teenagers, now we love it and are glad that he raised us that way.
yeah.
I can't imagine. I grew up in Manson, right? K through 12,
Yeah.
and multi-generational. So it was like, leave it to Beaver, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like 22 kids. You're just profiled, right? If you're in sports back then, Big Fish, Little Pond athletes were really relished in the community, and sports were a big deal, and farming, that whole grit. But I can't quite imagine, because those kids, I think there was maybe 16 of us that were K through 12. They were like brothers and sisters. You just don't spend that much time together. So I'm always curious about what it would have been like for me, and so I'm curious to get your perspective of moving from one school to another school to another school and making good friends. And then it probably has advantages, and I would imagine disadvantages.
Yeah, it was hard. And to this day, when I make a change, I get very nervous and almost like a nauseous feeling. And then once I jump in, I'm all in. But every year, we would go to a new school, and I would throw up on the first day of school. First couple days, I would get so sick and so nervous that I would make myself throw up just from the nerves. And then after that, I was fine. I got in, I made friends, I did all the things, and then the next year, all over again. And to this day, I've been with PrimeLending 15 years, but I remember when I left the last company, I changed, and I was between two companies, it was PrimeLending and another company, because I don't like to make changes. I like to stay loyal, but I was so nervous when I decided to go to PrimeLending, but I had that nauseous feeling still in my 40s. I was still getting triggered by the change, and then once I got in, I was good. I got to know everyone, and I was fine. But so yeah, it was hard, but I don't think I knew any different. I just did it.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You know what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it probably helped you learn how, as life throws curveballs at you, which life does to all of us, which is important to remember, that we all have a story, and we've all had good times and not so good times, and death and tragedy and disease and divorce, and a lot of these things are pretty common. They're going to happen to a lot of people. I don't think any of us are getting out alive. So, it does happen. And it must have given you this strength of character to realize that after the third or fourth, I can adapt. I'm okay. It sucks, but I'm not going to get afraid, or I'm not going to quit. I have to just go make new friends, for example. I just got done making new friends, and I finally felt like I belonged, and then boom.
Yeah.
So did you think that translated into your adult life?
Definitely, it translated. I don't think I consciously thought about it, though. I have an on switch that just goes. I don't give up on relationships, friendships, work, a transaction. I don't know what that looks like to turn that off, and sometimes that can be there's a shadow side to that too, of never taking time to just stop and smell the roses and just relax and not go in whatever area, but definitely gave me tenacity and helped me to just have that stick-to-itiveness.
Yeah, persistence.
To not give up. And but like a deal will be dying or having struggle on my team, or something's going on, and I'm like, all right, let's move this piece, that piece, and everyone's like, we were ready to call it quits. I'm like, no, we can do this. We're not going to give up. I mean, that doesn't happen very often,
but it does happen.
It does happen a lot.
For sure.
And, I want to get into that side of it as well. So you said when you first get out of high school, you're out of school at 18, you left house at 18, and you just went on your own, and I think you said you got into banking right out of high school?
Yeah, I had a buddy whose dad worked as a manager in Rainier Bank back in the day, and there was a processing center in Everett where they processed checks. And so the checks would go through these machines, and the machines had to be cleaned, and they needed a check processing person, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'll start doing that. And so I had all my credits, because Granite Falls was pretty easy schooling-wise from coming from Cleveland. It was, a lot easier curriculum, so I aced all my tests, and I had all my credits. So I left early at school and went and worked this job. And I wanted to be an engineer, which I don't know why I wanted to be an engineer, so I thought once I graduated I was going to go do that. But then when I graduated, I looked at the job postings at Rainier Bank, and I was like, oh, I could go to Edmonds and be a drive-up teller and make, $1,100 a month? And I was like, yeah, that's so much money. I'm going to be making so much money. And so I applied and got it, and then moved out with a couple girlfriends, got a place to share together, and then was the drive-up teller in Edmonds. And I killed it. I was fast, and everyone would compliment me, and they'd park, and they'd come in and tell my manager, Lyle Gustafson was his name, and they'd say, your drive-up teller sure is fast. And and I did that for 9 months, and then went to a hard money kind of a company where they did furniture loans and stuff like that. It was called Associates Financial Services back in the day. Did that for 9 months, and then a buddy that was there went to a mortgage company. At the time it was Continental Savings, which turned into Home Street Bank. And he's like, you got to come check it out. And so that's how I entered the mortgage industry and started processing and setting up files, and then got laid off because the market slowed down. And I said, I don't want to get laid off, make me a loan officer.
Oh.
And I didn't know what I was saying. I was like, I just didn't want to get laid off. I'd never lost a job before. So to be told that it was time to be laid off, I didn't like that. And so I was like, let me be a loan officer. And they're like, okay, we'll give you a draw. And the rates happened to have just come down into the sixes that year from high sixes. And I combed the database and did a bunch of refis and started doing that. And that's how I got where I'm at today.
How old were you when you started that?
I was 19, almost 20 when I stared doing that.
Wow.
I was scared to death. But I was sitting across from my manager, and I'll never forget it. I was like, well, what about me being a loan officer instead of not being, getting laid off? And he's like, all right, we'll give you a chance. And I was like, so scared. But I mean, now it's been 30 years in the industry, so.
Wow.
Yeah. But I never would have picked that job.
Yeah.
I never would have said, when I grow up, I want to be a loan officer. But it has been an amazing career. It's never boring. It's challenging. It's financially rewarding. It's fun. You get to work with all sorts of people and situations. And yeah, now in hindsight, I'm glad I did it. I
bet your dad was thinking college or military.
Absolutely, bingo. He wanted me to go into ROTC and go into the Air Force and be a military, have a military life. Yeah, he did.
So he was probably a loan officer.
Yeah, totally out of the box, away from the stable military income.
Yeah.
Commission and crazy markets up and down. Yeah.
Like commission-based income in general is a wild ride, but it's like any self-employment is essentially what it is.
Right.
And whether you open a hardware store, you open have an apple orchard, or a lemonade stand, you're commission-based, you're self-employed.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just different kinds of it, but you have to perform to be paid.
Exactly.
And what would you say that the best part of that world of self-employment and the hardest part about that world?
Good questions. The best part is the sky's the limit. I mean, if you are rewarded as hard as you work. So if you choose to work hard, you're just going to keep getting rewarded with that. There's no ceiling. But then on the flip side of that, if you're not willing to work, then you're going to have times where you're not going to have that paycheck. So you really have to save, plan ahead. If you're having a few good months, you don't know what the next months are going to look like. So you really need to plan ahead and make sure that you're, looking out for that. I've been blessed that in the 30 years I've been doing this, I can count almost on just one hand how many paychecks I have not, when I didn't have a paycheck. So I've always had something coming in. Just because I don't have that off switch. I'm always
and I think that's the funny thing about, I get this a lot, I'm addicted to what I do, almost to a fault at times in my life. I think I'm better now than I was in my 30s, 20 years ago, I think it was. Also, we ran into the 2008 recession, and you want to talk about having to work to make real estate deals happen in 2008 was creative.
Yes.
And so it's interesting, that adversity of 2008, which I didn't even know was a thing. I didn't think it was possible. So I think sometimes when you get too focused, I found myself looking down and in and not up and out enough.
Right.
So I'm just grinding, but then wait a minute, there's this global economic collapse.
But sometimes that's good, don't you think?
Well, it made a lot of money until I didn't see something coming, and in hindsight, it's like, oh, I could have saw that coming. But most of us were too busy daily to not think about the overall arching business itself and what are the risks, and I think that was a valuable lesson. And I don't know how you feel, but I know that I've always learned way more when I lose or something doesn't work out than when it's flowing and it's easy.
Yes.
I always say you can win or you can learn. It's hard to do both. Now, we've talked about this, where there's exceptions, right? I mean, Nicole always checks me down when I get a little too aggressive, which is great because, probably working with Michael in a different generation, the same thing. I'm sure Michael helps you at times, like this is a different land of business. This is a different generation of people.
Yeah.
And not to fast forward too much, but I am curious about the 6 generations or 5 generations in a business that you might take a loan for. You might have a baby boomer one day, and you might have a Gen Z technologist the next day.
Or the same day.
Or the same day.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference in your style of communication that you've had to adapt?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the older generations, the more mature generations definitely are a lot more in person, a lot more really wanting to dive into the numbers, sometimes meeting in person, although they are busy too and sometimes want to do it online. But as far as the younger first-time home buyers, they're pretty savvy. A lot of them are looking on TikTok. They're getting their advice from what they heard on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram or whatever. And so a lot of times I can tell when they're talking the language, I can tell that they've done that. And so instead of saying, well, you need to not go on TikTok and look for that advice, I say, it sounds like you've done your research and you're really looking to see what's out there. And tell me what you're seeing out there. And then I just pull it out of them and, well, yeah, I saw this video on TikTok that said that I could do this and this and this. Is that true? And so it's a lot of listening and and then countering. But the more mature generations aren't doing that at all. I mean, I'm on TikTok just to look at my daughter's reels when she sends me something funny. I'm like, I guess I better create a TikTok account. So yeah, definitely there's a difference in communication styles and meeting their needs and where they're coming from.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like it's not better or worse. You know, we talked about this morning in a real estate office. Technology is everywhere, and depending on who you're talking to, they like to communicate a certain way. And you know, those of us that didn't have a computer, we had no internet anyway in business for a long time, and had no MLS other than a book. And I mean, it's dating myself, but you can imagine there's no way to get information unless they come to you,
right?
Because you had an admin service bring you a book twice a month. I loved it. It was
books,
great.
Back in the day.
I mean, it's like we had the secret in our office, and you had to come to me, and
Right.
then all of a sudden, boom, it's everywhere. So you've had to adapt, right? We've all had to adapt to stay in the business through all the ups and downs and all the technology changes. But it's also challenging. I mean, I remember, I've talked about it a lot, but when I first started, it was easy because it was simple. You know, you had to talk to people, you had to meet people, you had to mail contracts. I mean, maybe fax machine came in early.
Fax machines back in the day.
Thermal paper and
replace the paper in my fax machine. It's running out. Yeah.
And now you might get somebody that wants to talk to you on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook or texting or emailing or, you know, it's kind of like, and their expectations of you, I would imagine in the lending industry, is they want you to communicate with them the way they want to communicate.
Exactly. And that's one thing I ask, you know, how do you want to be communicated with? And usually I can tell pretty quick, but yeah.
But it's still nice to ask. We always do the same thing for that reason.
Yeah. Then they know that you're listening to them, and most of them do not check their emails. The younger generation are not checking their emails.
Yeah.
And so we text them, hey, we just emailed you your disclosures. Make sure you e-sign those right away. Nikki, my assistant's amazing. And so she group texts everybody. That's like a standard MO. You know, hey, we emailed you this, just so they know it's in their inbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they won't look.
Yeah, I found it funny when, you know, some people don't want you to call them at all. They actually get offended. Why are you calling me without texting me?
Oh,
Text me first.
Yeah, I have had that a few
I didn't even know
times,
that was a thing until one of our agents told me. Well, I don't really, because I'm always preaching old school habits, I think.
Right, yeah.
I just think that it's just like I should preach to me about learning more, becoming more efficient in tech. I'm also preaching to people that are very proficient in tech to become more proficient in conversations.
More human, yeah.
You know, and I think authenticity is becoming a lost art when, again, you go online, you can find whatever answer to whatever ideology or whatever your feed is, whatever your algorithms are feeding you, you can support that narrative. And it may not be the correct narrative or the best one in that situation. So, you know, I've been in trouble texting my wife, and she's like, and I'm like, that's not what I meant, because there's no tone, right?
Right.
And
so pick up the phone and let me clarify that.
Yeah. So I think it's just one of those things that you just have to do it all. I mean, if you want to be the best, you have to be able to get better at everything that you're weak at,
right?
And then hire the best to do the rest. And you know, that's where I love working with people like you, that we can trust our clients, because I believe the real estate broker quarterbacks the transaction, for lack of a better word. We are the initial contact, and then we can provide references to lots of things, you know, attorneys and surveyors and inspectors. And the lender is very good.
Excuse me.
Bless you. It's all good. And to be able to trust that, because I also think we're in a very high liability driven world right now. Litigious is alive and well. And there's a lawyer around every TikTok. There's a lawyer around every Instagram post. And then you get that bad advice about litigation. Well, one of the ways we try to protect ourselves is stay in our lane and do what we are actually proficient at and licensed in. And so but we're also can have some liability by referring people too. So it's very important we do a good job.
Right.
And trust the people that we're working with. And I also think I mean, maybe a lot of people disagree, but I also think I think it's wise for me to tell people who I would not go with personally.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's also part of my experience that I'm bringing to the table. And again, that's when bad situations teach you things about character, about persistence, about honesty. Yeah, so I want to back up just a little bit, though. So you have kids.
Yes, I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And a 10-year-old grandson we're taking care of. So that's...
Yeah, so you've been through a little adversity there.
Yep.
to whatever level you want to get into it, but I think that you're such an amazing spirit, and you have this positive outlook on negative stuff, and you've been through some things. So you said you're taking care of a 10-year-old unexpectedly, your grandson. What advice would you give other people that are faced with, in today's world, these situations that seem to be more prevalent than ever before?
Yeah, that's a very good, deep question. I love deep questions. Well, I have a really strong faith in God. And when I was 25, I gave my life to the Lord. And really, that's where that comes from, because I truly believe that we have a higher power, a creator, and not to get too far down that road, but I feel like, we're designed to need that. And I've experienced trying to do it on my own. I'm a very high-level performer, very much like to be in control, and sometimes life just doesn't work that way. And so relying on Him has brought me survival skills and faith that I wouldn't be able to do things without Him. So that's my advice, is that seek that out. If someone's going through something, maybe talk to someone about that. And I just don't think we're designed to do this life alone, not only with people, but our Creator. So that's kind of what gives me my strength and my faith to just keep going. But that's not easy either. I mean, obviously I'm a real proponent of counseling, breaking down relationships, finding out how to communicate better in marriage and friendships. I mean, when you're alive, as long as, you and I think are the same age, 56. I just turned 56. You just have been around the block. I mean, I've been through a divorce. I've had friendships go sideways. Gone through stuff with my kids, my daughter, and it's just, life is just hard sometimes. I mean, it's challenging.
A lot of friends that have dealt with that I know often feel an internal guilt that they wrestle with, because the logical side of them says it's not my fault, but then there's this parental, like, did I do something? How did this happen? What, this adversity, whether it's suicide or addiction or mental illness or, is that where you're grounded in faith and you do your best? And
yeah, I mean, I've struggled with all those things. I mean, my daughter was struggling with wanting to be alive for many years, and it really almost took me out, because as a mother, it's not natural to watch your child struggle for life. And even with my faith, I struggled to be okay with that. And I never pictured myself as someone who would not want to be on this earth anymore, but the enemy is also real as far as, good and evil. There is an enemy out there that wants to lie to us and tell us that you're no good and that you shouldn't be on this earth. And so that's another whole spiritual conversation, but
yeah. That's good. I think these kind of I appreciate you being courageous and open, and because I think it helps people. I think there's part of that I've seen in friendships that have gone through real rough times. The lack of transparency or the lack of communication openly turns them inward into the darkness.
Right.
And if they're not getting counseling or they're not getting somebody to listen to them, then that can create danger zones in their own mind, right? And then I've seen them go off the rails.
But when you're alone, I mean, the thoughts just come at you. And I had a group of friends that I was going through a dark time, and I just felt like I couldn't tell. I felt like I was the one with all the problems. And so when I tried to share what was going on, and they weren't really sharing any of their stuff, so I felt like the only one with all the issues. And that's a lonely place. Then you do go inward, and you're like, well, I'm not sharing anything now because I don't want them to know all my stuff that's going on. And it's like, no, you need to bring it out into the light, or find your tribe who is going to be there for you. And I'm very blessed right now. I've got a very good tribe of people around where I could tell them anything and they won't be like, oh, Sharon's got a bunch of drama in her life, or, you know what I mean? Like, we all have stuff, and you just don't
And when you have the courage to open up, quite often you've helped someone else open up.
Right.
And so by just talking a little bit about it today, I think everybody's going through something.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's true.
Somewhere, something. There's no Eden.
Yeah,
like
no, not on this side.
Not on this side. It is.
I mean,
what
this
it
looks
is.
pretty good. Chelan's very,
It's pretty close.
pretty heavenly here.
Yeah. Thanks to Sunset Marina, by the way, for letting us, camp out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, when you talk to people too about it, especially if they've never really gone through a lot of difficult things, they don't know how to respond to it. So they could just be like, I'm so sorry. How can I help you? But then you just feel like they can't resonate the same. So it's like you got to find people who can also resonate with you. And then you talked about guilt, and I think the guilt really comes from like grieving, because grieving's part of guilt is part of a grieving process. And I think that kind of always sticks with you, because you're always grieving some path of life that you're never going to have, that you kind of wish you were going to have, or you lose that opportunity to live that, or they lose it, so
guilt is a bad one for me. I hate it. Like, I feel so guilty over so many things, and it's like a driver to avoid it, but it's not healthy. I mean, because I feel guilty over the littlest shit.
Well, I think men, especially my husband, and if he was here, he'd say the same thing, but guys want everything to be orderly and in control, and so if
fix
there's
it.
fix everything. So if there's mistakes, it's like it's hard to let that go completely. It's like you're always kind of reminding yourself that if I didn't do all these things or whatever, it's
hindsight's pretty easy to see the right choices and the wrong choices.
Right.
But in the minute, and when you're pressing envelopes too, in my life, I've tend to have been out there and high risk tolerance. But then that comes with failure. Yeah. You eventually fall off that tight wire.
Exactly.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad about it. But
then you learn, and then going forward, it's like you wouldn't have made the choices you made after that, or had the people in your life after that, if you didn't go through that. So I always I have to remind myself of that too, because I tend to do that too, because I'm a very high performance person, so I can fall into the guilt. But then I'm like, no, I wouldn't have this, and that. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't do that, or if that didn't happen to me. So I'm like, okay, back on the track, but I have to constantly remind myself.
I always say life makes sense in reverse, even though we are moving forward.
That's a good way to say it.
I
love that.
Yeah, I agree, and I've kind of come to the term that adversity breeds clarity if you let it. If you're not paying attention to why something didn't work out, the adversity got you, then maybe you'll repeat it over and over and over.
Yeah.
If you're in denial, like, I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
But, I take a lot of daily accountability. And, you can delegate responsibilities in business, but you cannot delegate accountability. When you're at the tip of the spear, you don't blame. It's kind of coaching stuff, right? Playing sports growing up. When we win, it's the team's doing. When you lose, it's the quarterback's fault. And the quarterback should take it. So I take that a lot. And it's a work in progress, And you talk about fixing things. My wife sat me down when I got married. She goes, all right, she kind of realized, here's the thing. When I'm talking to you, because she had to break it down like I'm a Neanderthal. Because sometimes we are. I mean,
and remind you, I'm sure.
I've been there.
The words aren't landing, so the expectations aren't being met, because the interpretation of the words is different. So she's good at saying, hey, look, when I'm telling you about what's going on, I don't expect you to solve the problem.
Yeah, just listen.
I just want you to listen. So she has to tell me that. So sometimes I'll go, is this one of those that I'm supposed to solve the problem,
that's good.
Just to listen?
That's good.
Your daughter does that too to you.
Oh, my daughter's the number one.
Daughters are.
She'll tell me point blank, you are falling into the old dad again that wants to solve all my problems. I'm a grown woman. I just want you to listen so I can vent.
Right, exactly.
I'm like, okay, good. Noted.
Yeah, note taken.
How long do I need to vent?
And then he's mute. He's like, I just, bite his tongue.
I don't mute Taylor.
Yeah.
You're going to get me in trouble. She's amazing. You just sold her house. Yes, I sold her the house, but you just funded her loan.
Yeah.
And she's a great example of a high performer, high D, both her and her husband. She's a doctor of audiology. He's a cop. But, she had $250,000 or more in student loans to be the doctor. It took a long time, almost 8 years. He was a stay-at-home dad for 6. So, they're at that place where they qualify, but they didn't have a lot of savings, and they have 2 kids. So stay-at-home dad, 1 income, 2 kids, in a place that's fairly expensive. But we were able to get her into a home, and she, the whole time, I remember after it closed, I go, well, how'd it go? She goes, I was terrified the whole time. She goes, I just signed stuff they asked me to sign, and I didn't know what I was like, you know, it's like, oh, we went over it, and she goes, I know, but, and then she settled in after it all worked out, and she goes, I can't believe I own a home. Yeah. Because she had that, even growing up with me, you know, she's 32. She's born in 92, 32, I think. People often, and I'm sure you see this, she's a high-level, high performer, one of the best doctors in the entire county in her field, and he's a police officer, but they don't know finance. Right. They've never had any reason to truly understand real estate. I mean, she probably got it through her teenage years, and probably I talked about it so much, she probably just went, you know, like,
blah, blah,
I don't want to do that.
Like,
whatever I do, I don't want to do that. And,
right.
And so she didn't know that there were so many creative programs available to help people with down payments and structure to help people with like a rate buy down.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we you know, we could do it now. There's the reason it's called Unscripted, because I don't.
We just bounce. We bounce all around.
No script.
So for so many people that might be listening, or people that know someone that might be listening, that make money, but they don't think they could buy a house, what's the first thing you talk to them about? And what would separate you from somebody walks into a traditional bank?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. So you talk about everyone having a story. Well, my website is yourstorybeginshere.net for a reason, because I do care about everybody's story. So the first time I sit down with someone, I'm really just asking them, you know, how's it going? I understand you're thinking about buying a house. How are you feeling? What are you seeing out there? Well, we're scared. We don't know anything. We didn't, you know. Okay, well, I'm going to help you through that. And I just kind of get to just kind of calm them down a little bit and talk them through that. And then we start talking about, you know, sometimes they're coming in and they have a house and things need to move pretty fast. So I don't have a lot of time to hold their hand. You know, there's an offer on the line. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to get you pre-approved. And then we just sit down and talk about, you know, everybody, you know, most loans have a down payment. Some of them don't. You know, how much do you have that you would want to use? And you were very instrumental in telling me, kind of setting the stage before I talked to Taylor about what they were going to have and what they needed. So that helps when the real estate agent does that.
I think that's a good point that realtor, like maybe the public doesn't understand. The loan officer has a series of products that, you know, it's almost, and they intertwine. There's like, you can mix and match these products. So it's not like a one size fits all at all.
Right.
Yeah. And you might have 100 different products that you can take this piece and that piece. But equally as important is working with a real estate broker that understands how to structure with terminology and execution aspects inside the deal. So they work together. They can work together seamlessly, or they can butt heads. For example, if you have a realtor that writes up a contingency for a specific loan, doesn't give the wide range of varieties, and then all of a sudden they qualify for a much better program, but the structure that they made the offer to the other listing agent, for example, isn't conforming. So we have to work hard to blend those, and that's why having a team of people, not just a broker.
Right.
That broker needs to know all of the people. I call it like a wagon wheel. If I was the center of a wagon wheel, all the spokes are all the affiliate. I call them the allied forces. And you better have a good allied force around you to accomplish the goal, because if you don't, you might still be able to get a loan, but it may not be the best, absolute best for that person.
Right. And then when I meet with my agents and have office meetings, I'm always trying to educate them just to have enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
So giving them those scripted things that they can say, so when they hear the buzzwords from a buyer, well, I don't have a down payment. My credit needs help. You know, whatever, I'm not finding the home I need. They all are old, and I want a brand new home. You know, renovation loans, credit expert help, down payment assistance. So just to know enough, and that's why, you know, realtors don't need to know all the details as far as what I know, because it would be impossible for me to infuse all of that. Maybe someday they'll have a downloading thing where you can download into people.
Yeah, that might be true.
It's important. if given it takes 90 hours to become a real estate agent online. So the barrier to entry is very low for a profession that will hold you to the liability standard of an attorney.
Yeah.
And in fact, the definition of our industry is we have the right to practice law in the limited scope. And that's why we have to use pre-approved forms, because we're not lawyers, so we can't author forms, but we fill in the blanks. And those forms in the state of Washington, at least for us, are Northwest MLS, which gives us an attorney that says these forms you can use, fill in the blanks. With that being said, so that means there's a lot of realtors. But just like loan officers, just like plumbers, just like everything, there's a lot of levels of this, and to me, I think the more experienced relationship you have with a lender, and the more that a realtor can learn your world without doing the work of your job, but understand what that is, that creates a much more competitive and productive and efficient, and at the end of the day, just a better situation for the client. So I'm always like, when buyers go, well, I want to use my friend that's a realtor, or I want to use my friend that's a mortgage broker, or like, okay, well, this is one of the biggest decisions of your life. I mean, and the reason they want to do that is they trust them, right?
They have a relationship.
Which is also a very, very important component. But I think that over my career, I just had to educate so many people that just don't know that there's a delta between real estate people.
Yeah.
That there's a certain level of experience, and it's okay to be, I have like 35 agents now or something. There's a lot of new people, but they need to be associated with someone that can help them. And unfortunately, in our industry, I mean, there's a reason why 75% of the people haven't done a deal in 2 years in the United States in real estate, because they're on an island. You get a license, you get hung in a brokerage, maybe they help you, but often they don't.
Right.
And the next thing you know, you're working with your friend, you really don't even know how to write up a deal.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's a very cookie cutter deal that maybe you learned on a class online.
Right.
But man, there's like literally thousands of ways to write deals. And then there's thousands of loan programs.
Right.
I mean, so when you mesh that, the gross multiplier of that is you can almost get anyone into something. And if you can't, what I love about what you do is you explain to them what needs to happen for them to be successful and how long that might take, whether it's credit, whether it's monthly payment, debt to income ratio, down payment. There's so many programs. I mean, you did a loan for my son too, and I want to kind of get into these programs, because I think that when I talk, I often find myself making assumptions that this person knows the words that I'm using.
Right.
But I wouldn't know an engineer's words, and I wouldn't know a brain surgeon's words or a lawyer's words. But with my son, he bought an old house, which in this town, when you're making normal money and not excessive, you're not an executive from a tech company.
Well, and he was single. He wasn't married at the time, so you got one income. That's also different.
So what you're going to qualify for as a first-time home buyer in this town often has some serious deferred maintenance or something that goes on with it. So that program that you offer, that we've talked about for years now, and you are one of the most versed of all the mortgage brokers I know on how to do that loan, because there's a lot of those type, and this is what we call an enhancement loan.
We have 29 of them.
Yeah, so
Really?
A lot of people think of rehab loans as, so if you're one of these people that is, a lender said they're not doable, they're too hard, they're too expensive, that's not true.
No.
There's 29 different ones, right?
Yeah.
And they won't tell you that. You can ask your lender, how many are there? And if they say, there's 2 or 3, there's 29 now. So so that tells you the level of commitment and education. And it's probably just that those brokers are not comfortable with it.
I didn't used to do them either.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been at PrimeLending now for 15 years, and I'm very blessed that we have a construction department. So we do them all in-house, and we manage all the draws and everything, and construction loans as well. And there's one for every purpose. So there's no property out there that shouldn't close for any reason as far as the condition.
Right.
Or
and so
desired.
Explain what like you can take my son's as an example. I don't know if you can remember that whole.
I know Michael helped him.
Michael, yeah. So he bought a house in Chelan Falls that had a lot of work, probably needed about $30,000 worth of work to basically be livable. So maybe explain, instead of adding a second mortgage or how other people used to have to do that, how you can do it.
Yeah, so what we're able to do is when someone has a property such as your son and he wanted to do the work or repairs, we can finance in desired repairs or required repairs. So if the appraisal says, hey, there's a rotted deck out here, what were some of the improvements that he did? Do you remember?
He did some wiring, and he had
Electrical.
some electrical, flooring, fixtures.
And was that his choice, or did that come up on the appraisal?
It was his choice.
Okay, so it probably maybe would have come up on the appraisal, or was that just mostly?
Probably.
Okay, so we can go either way. If someone says, look, I don't want to live in this house unless A, B, C is fixed, then what we do is we allow them to choose their contractor and get a bid with labor, materials, tax, and then we can add that amount to the loan or to the price. And then we get an appraisal as if that work is already done. So
That's
we get to lend on it.
That's a key component, right?
Yeah.
Because that used to not be the case.
Yeah, we can lend on the finished value. So then we have more equity to work with.
Yeah.
Because often maybe we're strapped. He was putting minimum down, wasn't he? So if we had just tapped that on top of that, we wouldn't have had that equity, right? We would have went over the value. So then we take that bid and we give it to the appraiser, and the appraiser says, okay, if you finish all of these items, then the house is worth this. And then we can lend on that amount, which is nice.
Yeah. And I think this is where there's another level of creativity on structure, right? So I tell first-time home buyers, especially here, not that it's easy to find, but if supply and demand, and this will get into a little economics, but if supply and demand dictates price, what do almost all buyers, like how many bedrooms do almost all buyers want?
3.
3 at least, I would say.
So in a perfect world, that means there's few buyers that look at a house that has 2 bedrooms and go, I want that.
Right.
So that means there's less demand on that 2-bedroom house, which means supply and demand dictates price. If I have a seller that has a house that wants to sell it, and they're going to do a market analysis on it, and they're going to comp it out at 2 bedrooms, but the land is cool, it's in a good location, I tell people to find those and add a bedroom.
Yeah.
And then instantly you're in the category of where 90% of the buyers want to live.
Right.
So instead of buying the 3-bedroom that's already appreciated and the world wants to buy it, hence you're going to pay a lot, find out how much does it cost to add a bedroom.
Right.
And then boom, you have 50 grand in equity.
Yep.
Boom, you have 100 grand in equity. So look to the dirt first. And that's the key about desirability. It doesn't have a lot to do with financing a 2-bedroom, because maybe it's financeable. But if you have some imagination and you could see where we could end up with this program, and then the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is it actually blends into one loan. It's not like 2 loans.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all one loan. Yeah. Yeah. So,
At the end, so you can imagine if you don't have a down payment, let's just say the house is 300 grand. And you add a bedroom and the house is now 400 grand and the bedroom costs 15 grand. You basically just put $85,000 in equity or as a down payment, because that equity is now a down payment
right.
in some situations. So it gets deep, like it gets crazy deep, but that's what we can do for people. And I think that my mission is just to help people realize they're never out of the game. And when someone you said it this morning, we had a deal flip over some insurance. What? Like you and I want to go, let's roll our sleeves up. Let's let me get the ingredients to bake that cake, and let me see if I can put them in a different order.
Right.
So many times I see people that either they get information online, like they're applying for a mortgage online, which is, like a Rocket or Quicken. Or now, if you're cookie cutter and you got an 840 credit score and you got 25% down and your debt to income ratio is 20%, you can do that. I mean, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you're not that, which most humans aren't, there's usually a story. There's usually something. Be careful. Be careful, and then don't believe them when they say no.
Right.
That's the key. When you hear the word no, what happens to your mind?
I go to work. I'm like, that's like, let's go. That's like green light, not red light.
That means like, ooh, something creative now.
Well, people like the one that called me about the I-10 two days ago. She called me, one of the realtors in town, and she's like, I need your help. This loan just got turned down. And I'm like, okay, what's the, what are the details? Tell me more. Like, I couldn't wait to have her tell me what it was so I could quickly find a solution.
And what's an I-10?
I-10 is an identifying tax identification number, immigration tax identification number. So it's someone who's not a citizen and doesn't have a social security number. But they have a tax ID number and they pay taxes and they work
they're legally allowed in the country.
They're a legal citizen without being in.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, there's just so much, there's good and bad and massive amounts of information, right? So online, we don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, there's bait and switch happening all the time. People are, told something that, I could borrow $1 million at 1% and zero down. Okay, well, you're probably going to.
Unless you're a doctor, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, again, it's just be careful and then find somebody that's very, very versed. And that's the message I want to try to convey, is that if you get no, call us.
Right.
I mean, if you hear a no, call us.
Yeah.
Because I don't give up very easy either.
We go through some creative tricks all the time to keep a deal from closing. And that's the main thing, I think, like when anybody works with somebody to choose from, it's like, not only is it like, okay, you're going to put a sign in the yard, you're going to put it on the MLS like everybody else, but it's like, how are you going to if we get a deal on the table, how are you going to keep it together? Right. And that is an art. That's hard.
Yeah, and people don't often know until they're already in a situation where it's challenging. Yeah. At the beginning, they think everything's great. Yeah. And so sometimes the cookie cutter pre-approval through a credit union or a bank feels okay, but they don't know what could go wrong or what sideways guideline might come up. In this case, the other lender wanted to verify housing expense, like 12 months rent, but these people pay cash for their rent. And we have 4 investors that don't require housing expense verification, so that wasn't going to be an issue for us. But they didn't know that going in, and then 3 weeks down the road, when the underwriter asked for that, they didn't know that was going to be asked for, and then it turned the loan down. So it just helps to have that suite of products, or someone that's willing to go outside the box if something does come up, because it is their largest purchase they're ever going to make. And sometimes it takes your real estate team to tell people, that's great, you sound so proactive that you went to your credit union, got pre-approved. I just want to see if you might be open for an additional opinion, just in case, this market's crazy, there's a lot of rules and guidelines that can come up, and I'd hate to have you, hit a roadblock. Are you open to another conversation with a more, local creative lender? Or, it's hard because people get very relational focused on their bank, and which is totally fine.
It's kind of the same thing with us when someone says, like I turn, we often hear agents from the other side of the mountains are representing people here, which is legal. I mean, we're licensed in the state. And they go, well, my friend wants me to be the real estate agent. Okay. On acreage where there's going to be a well needed, there's going to be a septic tank needed. Yeah. And they have never done it. And I'm like, be careful, because I know if my best friends asked me to represent them in a downtown Seattle condominium, I would refer them to somebody that knew what the heck they were doing. Even though I've been doing it for 3.5 decades, I haven't done that. Yeah. And so the friendship is cool, but also make sure that you have the sophistication and the experience in whatever you're doing. So I'm just like, be careful, you know, because I've had people literally up here. I had a deal one time where we were up in the middle of Union Valley up above Chelan in the mountains, and they were like, well, where's the city hookup? I'm like, the other agent from, there's a lot of good ones too, but this one didn't know, had never done a land deal. Yeah. They were just friends, and I said, well, there's no city. We're not in the city, we're in the county, and there's no municipal system. You have to drill a well. And the person literally looked at me and said, what's a well? I was like, wow, you're going to write this deal up? And then they said, where's the sewer hookup? Well, there's no sewer either. It's this thing called what's a septic? Okay. I mean, they just have never experienced it. They were probably doing nothing but condos downtown Seattle. Right. So it's just because you're licensed, and I tell this to my own agents, just because you're licensed and legal to do something, that doesn't mean you're qualified to do it. Right. You have to make sure that you do what's in your lane, and if not, partner with someone that does and learn. Right. Because those opportunities are great opportunities, and that's why we have a team where people can, hey, bounce ideas off of each other and leverage the. Yeah. And I think, for me, I was lucky. I was in college and didn't know what I wanted to do, and got a finance degree, and I took a year-long real estate course at Central. So it was like this, I don't even know what it was called, but it was a whole year of real estate stuff. So I had finance, economics, and real estate. Yeah. And then I opened a company in Spokane while I was in college, a real estate brokerage. But that finance background has really served me well to help communicate with lenders. Right. And help do private money and help do owner financing. And there's all these other structures that we can do in combination with with lenders. So
yeah,
and I guess I'm kind of belaboring it to death, but it's important that because I hear it all the time. My lender said I couldn't do it. Okay, well, she loves no. No is the first word in a great relationship.
I'll turn your no into a hopeful yes or a maybe anyway.
Or a soon.
Yeah.
Can I ask actually a question since we were talking about rehab loans? What about construction loans? Do there get to be a lot of hiccups like after somebody's done a construction loan? I know I just recommended an old client and friend of mine to you a few days ago about a construction loan because they bought a piece of land and now they're time to do it. So, but I didn't know. I guess I've always kind of handled it beforehand, but I've never really know much about what on your side afterwards. Is there like hiccups that come up with?
Oh yes, I mean as far as expectations are the biggest thing. So I've built 2 of my own homes personally, and have helped countless people build their own, and so I love it. It's another one of those things where you just map everything out, and you're like taking their land, and maybe they already own the land, and maybe they're just starting out. Maybe they know what they want to build. We just finished a home up in Brewster, gorgeous, beautiful home, a vacation home for a guy that works for cancer research on the west side. Just talked to him this morning. Actually, we're getting ready to convert it into a 30-year fixed.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I mean, I love sitting down with people and helping them communicate with their builder, figure out their description of materials. So basically, yeah, there's a lot of things that happen after you refer, but thank you for the referral. But so yeah, we just sit down and it often takes time. Usually they don't know what they want to build. And so we can refer them to local builders if it's over here or wherever. We're a national company, so we have builders in all 50 states that are already vetted and approved by us. So yeah, it's just fun to sit down and map out what they want to have done. We start with their budget. What do you want your monthly payment to be?
Yeah.
And then we work backwards. Okay, so if you want your payment to be this, and you own the land that's worth this, and about what do you want to build? 2,500 square foot home. Have you looked into cost? Yeah, we think it's about this. Okay, land plus that. Then I can start doing the math. And then I worked, down payment 20%, or do they have equity in their land that can count as the down? And then I say, okay, well, based on that, you're looking at about this much a month. And it looks like you qualify for that. So I can get you pre-approved for that as you research your builder and figure out, So we just kind of work backwards and forwards until we land on the target of what they want to build, making sure they're okay with the payment. Talking about the expectations, what's going to happen. I love talking about expectations. First, this is going to happen, then this, then that. And even though I tell everyone that,
it gets lost in the
weeds. I have to tell them again, and then things will happen and they get emotionally connected to what's going on with the house, or maybe there was a material that they wanted tile and now that's not available. Now they have to switch gears, or the weather is preventing. There's a lot of things. And so I make sure people go in with eyes wide open. And tell them to let all expectations go. From builders, people, just because things are gonna go. Even when I built our 2 homes, I'm pretty savvy on it, and I couldn't control everything. It was very eye-opening, just because I was like, they said they were gonna put this in on that day. Why is it taking longer? What's happening? And you're trying to get involved and call the vendors, and the builder's like, no. Do not call the vendors. You're going to make them mad. When we built our home here. But
it is an art and a science, because there's both in this game. And understanding.
But I love it. It's fun.
What were some of the programs? You were just with us at the Seattle Home Show. Thanks for doing that.
We
had a busy week. Talked to tons of people.
Yeah, that was a great home show.
Things are looking pretty good. Got a lot of leads, got even a lot of sellers at that show. It's my 27th year in a row doing that, so I've used it as a gauge, and it's been pretty accurate for the most part.
That's awesome.
You had some programs you're excited about, some new ones. I think self-employment might be one of them, and then we were talking about, so I can't remember what program what you talked about when you just got done with a conference. I think it had to do with rehab loans or...
Oh, home equity line of credit based on for rehab loan. So a lot of people want to hold on to their first mortgages because they're at a lower rate. Maybe they already own a home and they want to do renovations, but they don't necessarily want to get rid of that first mortgage at 2.875. So we have a product where they can do a home equity line of credit as a second mortgage based on the future finished value.
Right.
So I do have some clients that I'm working with right now that are going, 2 of them actually, that are going to go that route. They already own their home. They have very low mortgages on their first mortgage, but they don't want to get rid of that, because normally we would refinance and do the renovation and get rid of their mortgage and have one new mortgage. But in this case, we can do the bids and do an appraisal as the finished product and do the home equity line of credit, leave the first alone, and just do a second mortgage line of credit on the improvements and finance it that way.
Oh, nice.
And the delta between the old programs, a lot of them were based on your current equity. Did you have enough equity as is to get a home equity line of credit?
Right.
And what you're saying is it kind of goes back to how my son did it, where you look at what the home will be worth, that appraisal will be when the work's done, and therefore you expand your equity to make room for the home equity line on the second.
We can go either way. Some people do have enough equity and can get a $150,000, $200,000 home equity line of credit without doing the bids and that. But if they don't, in this case, these people did not have enough equity, and they would have been over 100% loan to value. So there would have been no cushion for financing. And so I said, well, let's get an appraisal on the finished product. Now we'll have additional equity to finance that work.
Perfect.
And that's like
so
the
it was a
example of a
creative way.
2-bedroom, and you want to add a bedroom. If you owned a 2-bedroom, well, your equity might be too small, but you add a bedroom, now you jump at 100.
And that's exactly what these people are doing. They're going from a 3-bedroom to a 4-bedroom.
Oh, perfect.
Because they just had more kids, and they don't want to move. They want to stay there, so they're going to leave their first alone. And the payment on the home equity line of credit, coupled with the payment on the first, is going to be lower, lower monthly, than refinancing it all into a higher rate.
Another example, people borrow money to put in like pole buildings, and they use the pole building finance company, or a pool, and they use the pool finance company.
Right.
The challenge with that is it's not always deductible.
It's also higher interest.
And way higher interest rate. So you could take a value of that shop that you want to build, or that pool you want to build, and if you have that as a debt, you might be able to refi it out of that with a home equity line of credit, with the expansion of the value based on that improvement. Where if you just went to a pole building company like Western Family Homes or something, and they'll finance you at 9%, 10%.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a second, but that's pretty expensive money.
Right.
And they weren't going to add any value to it, so it's why it's expensive money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're not equity driven.
Right.
So these are the things the nuances that when you really, and as when we're working with listing agents go, we have to look at all that too, to help them.
At least just caution them, like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We can connect you with people who can maybe at least run the numbers and give you their opinion. You make the choice on what you want, but at least you have all the facts.
Right.
That's important. Because if you can save a client some money, even if it's a past client from 3 years ago, it's best to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. We would often go around to the contractors at the home show here in Wenatchee and elsewhere, and just tell them, hey, if you have a client that wants to do these things to a house they're buying or that they already own, let them know they can finance it through us, and we can get them the equity they want at a lower rate. And often they're big sources of referrals for us, because they have clients coming to them to do all the jobs.
Yeah.
And so that's another good place to go.
Yeah, and then you can also use your equity to, a typical home equity line to pay off higher interest rate credit cards, and then the interest is deductible. With the high interest rate credit cards, it's not deductible against your income. So there's some advantages to have a mortgage.
Yes.
The other program that my daughter used, we use it a lot, which is the government has a program that's pretty cool. They'll basically give you 5%, right? Tell me if I'm all messed up.
Yeah, so it's Washington State Housing Finance. They are in Seattle, based out of Seattle. It's for all Washington State loans, and you can get up to 5%. So we can do 3, 4, or 5% down payment assistance. The more they get, the slightly higher the rate is. The less they get, the lower the rate is. And we can do them on conventional or FHA loans, or VA and USDA even.
And so with an FHA loan, the minimum is typically 3.5% down. So you could basically get 3.5% of a down payment assistance, and that's your down payment.
Right.
And then and we can structure seller credits so we can do things like buy down the interest rate. And there's another, we can get into that. But what's cool about that program is there's no interest.
There's no interest on the amount that you borrow.
Yeah,
right?
the 3 or 4 or 5%, and no payment for the life of the loan. So sure, it's a second mortgage. You did get the money.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you held that home 30 years, you would owe the same amount of money.
Yep.
You don't have any, it doesn't affect your debt to income ratio because there's no payment.
Right.
And it's 0% interest. So tell me where you're going to get 5% on a $500,000 house. That's $25,000 with no interest.
Right. It just sits there, and you just have to remember you owe it.
And you have to take a class. That's pretty simple.
Yep. We do the online class, which is $50 per borrower, and the certificate is good for 2 years.
Doesn't take very long.
No. It's, an hour at the most.
It's not like
just
a 30-hour
really
deal.
good information, actually. Yeah.
So I mean, I coupled that with my kids' deal. We coupled that program with a seller credit. With my commission, I credited and bought down the rate. And we got her down to 5.1% with basically zero down.
Yep.
And in that market, she was able to get a good deal because there was quite a few homes where she's at that were for sale. So she otherwise would not have been able to do it because, again, it goes back to she makes good money. They now both work. So, but that just happened. They went through 6 years of stay-at-home dad and police academy.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's like
so they needed some down payment.
Yeah.
part.
So their debt income was fine, but and then there's some income limits you got to stay within.
$215,000 a year, which is pretty generous.
Yeah.
It's pretty liberal.
Combined. So
Combined.
Yeah.
Or whoever's on the application. So if we have a spouse that pushes them over the income limit, we just leave them off the loan. They're only going to count the application income from whoever's on the
application. And they can
application.
own the house. They just won't be on the loan.
Correct.
So there's another situation where we found a gap where most people would go to apply. The combined income might be too much.
And they'd say, you're done.
You're done.
You don't qualify.
Instead of thinking, wait a minute, you qualify by one of you. So just pull you off of the loan, get the 5% down payment, and then you're both owners. You're both on title.
Right.
But only one person on the loan to fit that gap.
Yep.
So again, I mean, these are the things that are so cool when we can figure out the puzzle.
Don't you love that?
I love that.
There's so many nuances.
Have you guys played Rummy Cube?
No.
It's a board game. It's like gin rummy, but you have your tiles and you have your tiles. But then when you're playing, you can steal their tiles and move these and move around. And that's what I equate. What we do is kind of like that game where you're like, well, if I move this one here and move this here and take that and do this, then
that's a new game.
I win.
I gotta play it.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
Have you gotten a lot of calls with people because they want to add an ADU or anything to their property?
We do have that. Yeah, that's one of our 29 renovation loans is adding an ADU or a DADU. Absolutely.
That is such a hot topic right now that I know we are getting a lot of phone calls on, questions about constantly.
We should do some marketing materials on that. We can also build in the permits, the cost of that, as far as all the costs to create that and to get it permitted. We can build all that into the renovation loan, which is nice.
And so let's back up a little bit. You live in Indiana, right? And you've lived there for quite a while.
We built in 2016. Yeah.
So you're kind of
Love
right.
it there.
Yeah, it's great. And,
water ski territory, surfing now, more than water ski.
water ski.
On the river back in the day. Weren't you back there?
Oh yeah,
skiing on the river.
I did the lake.
I
had to get up at 6 a.m. and before the lake got choppy.
Yeah.
Was less people here too. So it was late at night, early in the morning, and I went water skiing must have been 8-9 years ago now, and took some pictures, and I was slalom skiing and showed my son, and I thought he'd be like, man, you're a stud athlete.
That's impressive.
He said, that's really nostalgic.
Nostalgic? Thanks, son.
Even the way
It's
it
like a
sounds
museum.
Back in the day.
Do you have a wooden ski?
It's true. It's all of our generation. That's like the,
I said, have
the
you
old
tried to
school.
ski, dude?
It's
not that
seriously.
easy.
No.
I think the name doesn't help though. Slalom ski.
Well, slalom. You do slalom in the Olympics.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
You know, where Michaela Schifrin won the gold. She's slaloming around the. It's basically going in and out of buoys, or that's where it came from.
That's what
Do
we
we
did.
need to teach you?
I'm an uneducated water skier. I've never done it.
I can
so
teach you.
there you
I
go.
can teach you I'll teach you how to surf too.
So sometimes you think you're impressive and you're just a museum.
You're just nostalgic.
Museum.
That's your new word. Nostalgic.
It's kind of
That's
like
not
when
a
we were
bad
kids
thing.
and you looked at your grandpa's wooden skis or something. You're
Yeah,
like,
I have one on my wall, a wooden slalom ski on my wall.
Yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
3.
3 kids. And I know Michael because I've met him. Yep. Obviously, he's like in your world.
Yeah, he's on my team.
But what are your other two names?
Jordan is my daughter. She's 30. And Taylor is my youngest. She's 28. I have a Taylor also.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and Michael works with you at PrimeLending.
Yes, he's on my team. And he just had his first baby boy, Grayson. So he's a couple weeks old.
Do you just love being a grandma?
Yes, I love it. And then Taylor had Carter about 6 months ago. So she's got a 6-month-old, and Michael has a 2-week-old, and it's.
And what's your 10-year-old's name again?
Cohen.
Cohen is with you now, and so you're kind of raising another. You're going through it again.
Yes,
suddenly.
I am. Yeah, yep. My daughter Jordan is his mom, and she's going through some, finding herself, kind of figuring life out, and so it was necessary for us to take Cohen, and he's doing amazing. We've got him on ski team at Mission Ridge, and he's playing baseball and soccer, and
so I'm always curious because what it would have been like to have kids again, and the differences between when you raised your kids the first time and then in today's world.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I could.
Like, is him at 10 different than your kids at 10?
Yeah. Like the parents.
Not really.
Or the
He's into Pokemon. We've got him in a private school, so he's, they're kind of a hybrid private school, homeschool.
In Iniad or in Wenatchee?
The private school is based out of Snohomish.
Oh, okay.
And so they just give us our curriculum, and then I can, when I'm over on the west side, because I have an office in Marysville too, and here in Wenatchee. So when I'm on the west side visiting whoever, I can take him with me. But then if I come over here, they give me his curriculum for over here if he's on ski team, because often we leave and come over early. And
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's a really good combination. But yeah, I think I'm kind of old school, so my parenting skills kicked right in as far as boundaries, and I'm kind of like my dad a little bit, not quite as abrupt in my communication style. I'm a little more emotional and explanatory to Cohen, but he's pretty strong-willed, so he needs very, firm boundaries, and no, I said no because I said so, now go in your room and do that,
Yeah.
So that kicked right in.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Oh, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's how the parents of our generation, smoking in airplanes. No, don't do that.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
I know.
Now it's a little different.
Yeah, and what is your husband's name, and what does he do?
Mike, he's a retired firefighter.
Oh, nice.
He worked for District 7 on the west side for 34 years.
Wow.
So he's been real helpful. Being retired, he often helps take Cohen to where he needs to go, and he loves to cook, so he's always cooking us dinner. And he's great. He's a real good, big help, and yeah.
Well, you never know what life's going to bring.
And he's keeping us young. People think we're his parents. Go ask your mom. I'm like, hi.
Nice.
Yeah. Cohen's like, that's my grandma, and I'm like, that's okay. They can call me your mom.
I love that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's cute.
Well, where do you think we're heading next? What do you think is going to happen this year with your world?
Well, it's already picking up. I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people pre-approved over the last, since rates started going up in 22, that are just waiting for whatever, rates to come down, more houses to be on the market. People are coming out of the woodwork. My February and March is stacked as far as people coming out and making offers and getting out there. And we're expecting a new federal chair, reserve chair, in May. Jerome Powell is out, and a new one's coming in, who's supposed to be a little more rate reduction conscious. There's still a committee of 12 for them to vote on whether or not they lower the Fed rate, so it's not just one person that decides that. But I'm hopeful that we will get more open-minded about, lowering the rates further so that we can open that up. The economy's doing great. People's 401ks are doing great. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
For,
Seemed like
whether
the show is indicative of that.
Yeah.
I think the shock of the rates jumping 4%, and it was the largest increase in 12 months in history.
Right.
2.8 to 7.2 or whatever in 12 months. That hurt because the expectation was, hey, wait a minute, I can no longer afford that.
Yeah.
I wanted to buy that house. Well, now your payment's double.
Right.
And so then it also hurt on the transactional side. Sellers had mortgage handcuffs, like we had talked about. They were like, why would I sell at 3% and give that up to borrow at 7%?
Right.
And so now we're down, I think, two things. One, people like to lives change. They have kids. They got to move on. They got to relocate. They, they make more money, whatever. But so time helps, and that's the other thing. Just this shock factor. It takes a few years to get over that and realize, like we run into it, where it was hard to list houses because when it jumped so fast, that house sold for $1 million. I want $1 million. Okay, well that was half price money. Yeah. And so the interest rate affected the value because the buyer pool shrank. Right. And so, but John got it. I want it. I'm like, well, John sold last year. Yeah, exactly. Now we can't get that 2% money anymore. So that took a while for sellers to realize that it's not all about comparable sales. It's also about economic forces and cost of money. And I think now it's in the 5s, 6. Somewhere
low 6s, high 5s. Most of our clients with seller credits are often getting into the mid 5s, mid to high 5s.
And that's like my kid got 5.1, with some creativity. Right. So I told her she owes me like $2 million. Yeah. They each do. Both my kids. I just rounded up to $2 million. I want a good walker when I'm older.
He just holds that over their heads forever.
Of course. Yeah. And compounded interest, you owe me like $10 million. So I expect great walkers, good service when I get too old.
Right, exactly.
No, they're good kids. They're both doing great.
Yeah, I think things are going to really turn around. I think people, like you say, they're done waiting to put their life on hold, even if they are locked into that low rate on their first. They have a lot of equity, enough to do something on the next stage of life, and people are done waiting. They've psychologically adjusted to the rates being where they are.
Well, and we're not in high 7s anymore. Yeah. That helps.
Yeah, that does help, for sure.
The last program I wanted to talk about, or at least mention, is we have a lot of self-employed orchardists. We have a lot of self-employed people in general. And you have programs that are specific to that. And just in general, and correct me if I'm off, but in general, when you're self-employed, you try not to pay income tax. You deduct everything you can deduct. Yep. By deducting everything you can deduct, your actual net taxable income is lower. So sometimes you fight this battle. Do I declare the income so I qualify, or do I deduct it legally and not pay the tax, but then I make less money?
Exactly.
So you have programs that are statement driven?
Yep, bank statement driven, absolutely. Yeah, I love these loans. They're so fun because people come and they're like, I don't really show much income on my taxes. Like I've had so many people where they show $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month on their taxable income after they, write everything off. We can add back in depreciation and a few things, but sometimes it's just not enough. And I say, well, we've got a great program. Let's look at your last 12 months of bank statements. So we get their business bank statements, we add up all their deposits, and then we take an expense factor. So for example, depending on the line of work they're in, we may apply anywhere from a 25 to 50% expense factor. But I just had a client where they showed $6,000 a month. It was a contractor, $6,000 a month on their taxes, and their debts are over that. Their payment that they want, the bills that they have are over $6,000 a month. So on paper, they don't even look like they can afford their current lifestyle. Right. So then I'm like, give me your last 12 months business bank statements. We add everything up, divide it. They went from $6,000 a month to $35,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they were fine.
Yeah, it's another example,
right? We can go 10% down on that. They have to put at least 10 to 15 to 20% down depending on where their debt to income ratio is or what kind of house they're looking at. Another contractor here in Chelan, I just got him approved on a bank statement loan. We do a ton of them, and I love it.
And I think a lot of people just don't know.
No.
And if they go to their local bank, especially in the kind of the older baby boomers, more seasoned people are used to their bankers being portfolio bankers, especially in the farming world.
Right.
And those, there's been bank consolidations. They're not the same as they once were.
Right.
And so even they used to have private bankers and portfolio loans where you go, hey John, I need, $200,000. Okay.
Handshake.
Yeah. Like, my mom was a bank teller at Seafirst for 25 years. Yeah.
That was back in the Rainier Bank days too.
People loved her for that same drive-through example you made. She just stayed there.
I love that.
She loved it, and everybody loved her, and so she was fun.
That's cool.
But anyway, this has been kind of fun, huh?
Yeah, thank you for
hopefully
having the talk.
How do I get people to get to you if they're watching this?
Well, they can text me or call me at my number, 425-327-1451, or my website, yourstorybeginshere.net.
Perfect.
Which is,
And if you also just Google Sharon Crockett.
Yeah, you can Google me. Or you can chat GPT me.
She definitely pops up.
Yeah.
Because you got good reviews and everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks
so are you.
Appreciate that. You're all right.
You guys are good.
I just sit in the corner.
Yeah. You're amazing, Nicole.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, she is.
She's brilliant. So anyway, appreciate it. This has been fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Signing off one more time. Small Towns Unscripted.